in general.
Yeah, he told me some other things he'd like me to go over.
Okay, Les, we're ready.
Okay, call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Are there any additions to the agenda, Steve?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do have several here. At 9:30, please delete Angie Rates fairgrounds use. That issue's been taken care of. She does not need to come to the board. At 10:30, please delete Keith Freeman, County Sheriff. He will not be here. Kathy will be dealing with the personnel issues. Doesn't require his attendance. On the back page, please add at 11:30 a.m. Jamie Fay, Jamie Fay, from Ide Bailey. That's our audit firm. Both she and Amanda will be here for the 2020 audit report. The only other thing if we run in, if you don't have enough time, could always recommend to table committee reports until the next meeting. See how the day goes.
Okay,
That's
with
what I have,
that,
Mr. Chair.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of the consent agenda. The minutes of 3/22. Approval of the auditor warrants of 3/25, 3/30, and 4/8. Approve the commissioner warrants. Approve the hospital warrants of $570,053.63, and approve the March treasurer's report.
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Nick, you have the floor.
Good morning. Morning. All right, first up for me today would be project updates. The first update I have is on the gravel crushing, and that is now underway. So I think they started yesterday. They were going to start last week, but then the weather wasn't very good. So, but they are going on that now. So, next update I have is for the 2022 seal coats. Last I talked to the contractor, they're tentatively planning to do the work, I think in later June. Of course, that's subject to material supply and weather and everything, but it looks like it'll be in the first half of the construction season. So, the next update I have would be for the 2022 overlays, and currently we are scheduled to be the first job of the year. So, that's probably going to look like a week or two after road postings come off then. So get that out of the way before the bridge construction ramps up later in the season. So.
Hey, some of the highways that are listed are not correct, though.
Yep. So looking at that, the third one down would be County State Aid Highway 8. Fourth would be 10, not 1. The fifth one is 16, that's right. And the last one is 56, not 1. Looks like the descriptions are right, but
Right.
road numbers were wrong, so, yep. Okay, I'll get that corrected for next month. Yep, good catch. Must have copied and pasted and missed the, focused too much on the description, so. Then the last update I have as far as projects under the planning stage, it's just some various township culverts. We regularly get asked for those and we try to do them whenever the township asks, and that's usually as soon as you can get to it, so. We have a number of them sent off for sizing and various stages of that process, so. All right, that's it for project updates. All right, next up, I need some board action to, approve selling of some surplus equipment. I'd like to, I think, take this list, assuming it's all approved, pretty much make copies of what you see, and then send it out to all the cities and townships in the county. And, you know, tell them that if they're interested, submit a sealed bid by whatever date, and we'll open them and compile a list and make a recommendation to the board, and then, you know, you'd be able to act on if you want to sell it or send it off to auction or what we want to do with it. So I believe I touched on that at a previous meeting.
Right.
Okay. So that being said, that's how I'd like to handle it, but I'll just briefly go over all the equipment listed here. First up is our printer. We got a new printer. I don't know, I think it's probably a year ago already, but there was no market for the one we had. We usually trade it 5 years. This one's 7 years old, so I'm assuming that's probably why there was no market for it. It's still, from the best of my memory, it still actually worked pretty good when we got rid of it, but we're doing a lot more scanning now. We like do plans in our office, and I'll sign it, and then we have to scan it and send it to the state, and then they'll print it. So I mean, we needed a better scanner. That's why we got rid of it. But otherwise, I think it works pretty good. We were told to throw it in the recycling, but I don't know. It just seems a little weird to me. It seems like somebody could get some use out of it, but if the toner for it's worth more than what it's worth, you know, I don't know, maybe it will end up in recycling, but I think, well, it doesn't really hurt anything to try and, you know, see if anybody else wants it first. So that's the story in the printer. The next item listed there would be our sign truck. Our new one's in service and everything's working, so it's time to get rid of that. Next up would be Unit 41, which is an old asphalt patch trailer. I don't know that I ever remember us using this, and I'll have been here 15 years in November, so I think it's probably safe to say that that's probably not going to get used. But next up is Unit 46. It's a 1986 flatbed trailer, 6.5 feet wide, 14 feet long. It's just an older trailer. It's had a lot of use. It's fairly worn out. We don't really use it for anything anymore, so that could probably just as well go and get out of our way. Next up, Unit 47. It's a 1974 Dynapack roller. It's steel drum roller. We use this for patching bituminous. It's got some engine problems. It's got a lot of blow by, so that might mean that it's on its last, you know, I think that means it's probably on its last leg. The engine's about ready to give it up, so yeah, it's we looked at a different engine, and it I don't know, didn't seem like it was worth fixing. So next up is Unit 51. That's a homemade shouldering machine built in 1987. I believe it runs and works, but you need somebody to ride on that seat on the side of it, and I don't know that we want to be doing that going down the road. So yeah, I don't see that getting used anymore by us either.
Did it have seat belts?
I don't know.
Look like it.
Not saying it couldn't be used. I just don't know that I want to deal with it. So next up be Unit 57, which is a 1996 John Deere number 45 blade. It's 6 foot bidirectional. There's some wheels shown in the picture. I don't think they go with that blade, but they're froze down on that pallet, so that's why they're in the picture. I don't know the story behind it. I don't know where it came from, why we have it, but we don't use it. So, next on the list, there's two 500-gallon above-ground fuel barrels. I believe the story is they're single-walled, so we can't use them. But I don't think either of them leak, so we shouldn't. We should be able to find interest in someone wanting those. Then below that, I have a number of tires and rims listed that don't fit any of our equipment anymore. They'd be spares that we've accumulated over the years, but as equipment evolves, none of them have that bolt pattern or that size tire anymore. We could hang on to them for another 20 years, maybe something will come back, but by then they'll probably be rusted or rotted. So I don't know that it's worth hanging on to them anymore. So then the last item I'd like to talk about are these bristle wafers. They come off the power sweep, but they're not, they're wore out for the power sweep. To me, I wouldn't have thought twice. I'd have just thrown them in the garbage, but we've had some interest from farmers, I believe. They haven't talked to me. I'm hearing the second hand. I guess they would work for scratching posts for livestock. So we can't just give them away to, one person and not another. So probably not worth our time messing with, but if there's some interest and we can help a resident out, I would recommend we just add them to our list of items that we sell to the public. As far as I'm concerned, we could put $1 a piece on them. I don't know. If you want to put more than that on them, I'm fine with that too, but I just need board permission or approval to do that. So.
Well, actually, they're wore out equipment.
Yeah, they are. That's why I would just say throw them in the dumpster, but we can't really just be giving stuff away. If somebody wanted them, I can't just say, well, we're going to throw them away anyway. Here you go, because it's not treating everybody the same. So, I don't know. I guess that's my 2 cents on what to do with those. But.
Mr. Chair, it's been a number of years now since we've had a surplus auction out at the fairgrounds of our equipment. I know we combined with the hospital one time, and I don't know, did it even pay for the auctioneer's fees to do that? Is that something we should do again? Do we have other departments that have stuff also to get rid of?
I don't know. I didn't check with anybody. We just kind of did some of our own house cleaning, and this is what we have.
What do you guys think? Is it worth trying to put one together if we got other stuff? Or?
Depends how much other stuff there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really don't have a lot of stuff here at this point. I think the hospital had a couple of things they dropped off at the sheep barn, Wayne said, but nothing that's gonna, the only way you get it in is with another auction.
Right.
That
Yeah,
somebody
there's
was going to have would be, instead of trying to do our own, might make more sense. But I think Nick's had pretty good success with this project, in the past, with getting it out to the cities and things like that, and then going public with them.
So there's some of this stuff. I don't see there's any realistic way all this would sell to like cities and townships. I would say probably well under half of it, we'd maybe get bids on. So I think some of this would end up probably being scrap iron. That being said, I'm in no hurry. Like if we wanted to check with other departments and maybe have a county one, that's fine with me.
There's some of this stuff that is interested to people, though, county residents.
Yes.
The blade and
Yep.
fuel tanks and
Yeah.
trailer. Maybe.
I think
Rims and wheels.
the rims and wheels, I think very possible. Those might be of interest to some local people. If we did put something on that state website we've used before, that costs money to do that. So some of the stuff it might be a wash in the end. It's very possible.
It also occupies some of your time as well too. It costs money and time for you to go through those one by one.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, and we always get a bunch of questions from tire kickers. They're never gonna bid on it anyway, but you gotta respond to it. So,
But again, doing your due diligence, because again, this is county property, and we can't just, dispose it without being in the public eye. So if, like I said, there's no real big rush right now, I guess probably other than the truck is the only thing that would just continue to age sitting there. The rest of it is already depreciated out. So it's not like we want it to sit for a long time. But we do have a little bit of time here if we want to check with the other departments and see if
Yeah.
there's enough to put an auction together. And
If we put together an auction or teamed up with another auction, it's going to happen within the year. I don't see any problem with that. You know, most of this stuff has been unused for multiple years, with the exception of the sign truck. But
didn't we have some property like the recycle sheds? Didn't we put those on Livermont's auction and combine with him? But
That I
if
don't
he's
know.
doing that anymore. Is he still doing those?
No, well, he just sold his building.
Building,
recently,
yeah, but I don't
so-
know if he's still gonna have auctions now. I thought it was building, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Instead of having our own specific auction, maybe we could combine with another auction.
Right.
It's a possibility.
yeah,
Don't be afraid to call a junk man either.
that very well could happen.
That shouldering machine and stuff like that, that
That's probably where that would go, would be my guess.
wound up or whatever. The Dynapack also was in the,
We have a dumpster, a large metal dumpster. That,
oh, I mean somebody like Bill Floyd. He'll come down, pick it up and give
Oh.
money for it.
okay,
If it's metal and heavy. He takes tires along with him and everything, so.
yeah, I've had him at my house, so
Yeah,
he did a nice
You know
job
the
cleaning it
plan.
up.
You know the program. Just make
Yeah.
sure he doesn't take more than you tell him.
Oh, yeah. Actually, at my place, I told him if he was there within a week, he could have it. I didn't even want my cut, and he was there on a 2 days later on Sunday to do it. So
That sign truck has got a crane on the back of it. How about the body of the truck? Is that got rust on it, or is it?
I haven't looked at that close. Yeah, I couldn't really tell you what kind of shape that's in. It was doing what we needed it to up until we took it out of service. So
Yeah. Gasoline or diesel?
gas. I think that's like a
I'm pretty sure it
8.1
is.
liter or 8 point. I think it's a really big gas engine, and I think the transmission's been fairly recently replaced or gone through or something like that. So,
Automatic?
yes. Yeah.
Doesn't look too bad.
What's that?
Doesn't look too bad.
No, it's not. It's just I don't know. Signs and everything is getting so big, and it's just I don't know. It's not really big enough for that anymore. For us, I think it worked great for a city. You know, you're not traveling that far. I think it worked great for a city service truck of some type.
The bed doesn't have a hoist on it, does it?
Like, does it tip up?
Yeah.
I don't think so. No. I think it's got an air compressor on it. Yeah, I think all that stuff on the side, that's an air compressor and a crane. Who knows? Maybe a farmer would want it as a service truck. Very well could be. So
Let's
That-
just do some checking on some auctions.
that'd probably sell really well around here on an auction, on a local level. So
It would be the good draw to draw people to
yeah,
your auction.
yeah, it would. Yeah, yeah. So okay. So I guess we'll just kind of leave this be for now then.
Just table it and
Yep.
do some checking with
Yeah,
some
I'm-
auctions and stuff.
Yep, I'm fine with that. I guess one thing we could do is, how about those bristle wafers off that broom? Is that okay if we add those to our list of items for sale to the public then? Or do you want those on the auction too? Because we'll be getting more of these in the future, as our broom bristles wear out. So if we could put it on our list, then next time we get a bucket full of them or a box full of them, they're available to the public again then. And it doesn't matter to me, I guess. But
That's fine, I guess.
that's fine.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
How many are there?
I think there's about 30 right now. So I don't know how many it'd take to build a scratching post, but I'm not a cattle guy, so. So all right, we will we'll put those wafers on. Or do we need board action for that?
No, it's waste material.
Okay. Okay. So we'll do that, and we'll just table the rest of it then. for now, so, okay. All right. All right, next item for me would be, request to purchase a John Deere 6130M tractor with a diamond mower from RDO Equipment for $146,144.32. We'd also like to pay this as an auditor's warrant. This price here includes the trade-in of our existing machine. And the RDO machine, John Deere was a low bid compared to the Titan machine. Really close, but I think they're both quality machines, so I would recommend going with the low bid. The only other side note I have is this machine does not come with the strobe light. And I think we can purchase that and install that ourselves cheaper than whatever it would cost to get that put on at the factory. So we would, that's the bid on the machine, but just understand there'd be roughly another $500 bill coming for the light kit.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that a motion. We approve that purchase.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Right, next up for me would be approval of a John Deere 410L backhoe from RDO Equipment for $139,880.47. We also request approval to pay that as an auditor's warrant. We priced that versus a CAT machine, and I think they're both quality equipment, so I would recommend going with the low bid from RDO. We have $140,000 in the budget for that, so it came in just under budget. And both of these bids include the trade-in of our existing machine, so.
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, next item for me, as you recall, we talked a while ago about closing the road to the Manette Crans Reservoir. I did some checking with Kyle, and it was his understanding that it's privately owned by the county, so we can do whatever we want with it, so. I think, Dan, is that you that asked me to follow up on that?
Yep.
Okay, so I think that was everything you wanted to know about that,
Well,
right?
that, and also, do we have an obligation to maintain, access to the water? Or,
No, how I took that from Kyle is we own it, we can do what we want with it, so, something changes, we can, we can obviously open it up, but there's a cost to doing that, so if we don't need to do that, it'd be cheaper if we just.
and I'm not really familiar with the area, I don't know if people go down there, they use that for lake access or pond access or not.
I heard there's some fishing back there, maybe some other stuff, that shouldn't be, I don't know, but.
They do. They'll go down there with snowmobile or the pickup trucks and that type of thing, but I think next year is we'll put one barricade there that says road closed, and people do wanna go around it, they're going at their own
On risk.
Yep.
Minimum maintenance road kind
Yeah,
of
it's
thing.
minimum maintenance.
This year we had two, so they weren't getting by there, but, I'm all but certain that we'll get enough snow to where it's gonna come up again next year, and, we'll do it however you want. Our experience on road construction projects is that if you don't physically have it,
They'll go around.
they will go around it, or some of them at least will. I don't care, whatever the board wants, it makes no difference to me, but.
And to go with the philosophy of minimum maintenance, that's fine, that takes care of our legal, but it doesn't take care of the nuisance for the neighbors that get called
Correct.
out of bed in the middle of the night to pull somebody out, so.
Yeah. Yep, that's exactly right. And I've even seen, I know by me, I saw a minimum maintenance road once, and then under there's another little sign that says no snow removal. So whatever. There's a lot of options, and we'll do it however the board wants. It makes no difference to me, but we'll see. We can start with one, and if the problem doesn't quit for the resident there, then maybe we revisit putting up another, completely closing it off to everything but snowmobiles, you know, so maybe that's the solution, I don't know, we'll see, so. Okay. Last item I have would be maintenance updates. We had 6 weather events over the last month. Currently we have some culverts that are still froze up, so we're out pumping water from one side of the road to the other so it doesn't build up and start flowing over and create a washout. County Road 2, east of 75, there's an old railroad bed coming up through our road, oddly enough. So we've dug some of it out already. Yeah, I didn't know it was there, but we got pictures from a resident, so. So yeah, we've done a bunch of digging out there now. I'm not sure if we need to do any more, but, yeah, just.
The frost is just moving it up, is that what it is?
I suppose if it moves, the gravel road is probably built over these tracks or whatever, you know, and every year it just works up a little bit more with the frost heave, and so I don't know if we're done there or not, but yeah, it's kind of weird. don't run into that very often, but we had a lot of garbage thrown in our ditches. We've picked up about a dumpster full already. We're working on mastic on our County Road 10. That's that newer product I told you about. We'll be, not sure if we're done on that segment yet or not, but next we'll be moving to County Road 8 by Holland. There's a really weird, nasty crack on that, so we're going to try this in there and see what it does. I think this product, thus far, I've been very happy with how it looks and how it's acting, so I think this is going to be something I'm going to want to do in the future, but I want to get the overlay on this first and see, but it's looking like it's something I want to do more of in the future, so. We've been out sweeping bridge decks that time of year, and we've had a bunch of sign repairs to do from signs that have been snapped off from all the wind we've had lately, so. Outside of that, that's all I have for this meeting. Anybody have any questions for me?
Mr. Chairman, can I just mention something? The north end of Main Street in Edgerton has some potholes. I don't know if it's time to fix potholes yet or not, but that's counties, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, the city, we paid the city to do maintenance on it. I'd have to look at that list, what that all
Okay,
includes,
so the
but
city's responsible. That
I want to look. I don't want to say.
I just thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah.
I haven't brought it up to the city yet, but
Okay. I assume it's pretty obvious if you drive it, you tell right where they're at. Okay. Well, we did some patching by our County Road 9.
it's about 100 feet south of that.
Okay. Go figure. Yeah, we included that with the overlay last year, so we went a little farther around the corner because there were some bad spots there. So, okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else for Nick?
Nick, the bridge project by Island and Memorial Day is still the target for that. How are they doing with the weather? And
Yes, that's our target, but we've run into a lot of problems drilling. That bedrock is harder than they anticipated. It's not going well. They've made some adjustments to their machine, and it's a lot better now than it was, but it's still, we thought it was going to go a lot better, but yeah, that's still what we're shooting for. And actually, while I'm on that topic, the contractor did ask me if the drilling sub is ready and willing, if they would drill the piles for the other one west of town. I think that would be a good thing to do. I told them they could, but it's going to look weird because they might dig a trench through the road right now and drill them and then fill it back in, on both sides. So, I mean, that'd look really weird, but to me, that would be a good thing because then they could get going on that sooner, and if everything worked out right, hopefully that could be done before harvest. So that's why I told them that, that would be probably a good thing to do. So, so you might see a trench dug through that road for that reason. And it is possible they might just drill right through the bituminous right down, so it might not be a trench, it might just be a big hole in the road, which is, would be something weird, to see it done like that, but looks like it'll work actually, so.
Thanks for letting us know though, so if somebody asks, we can have an explanation.
Yeah,
That helps,
Nothing set-
that helps us.
yeah, it's not a for sure thing yet, but,
That's,
I've been asked about it, so I haven't heard back from them, but it could happen, but, I'll give more detail if they come up with a plan and are actually gonna proceed with that, so.
Nick, now that the frost is starting to come out and so forth, and then with access to the state park down there, with this bridge being out to the north, have you taken any steps to the south for people to have access in along the gravel to get to that?
So the road is open to the state park. I've been in contact with the state park. I told them, I gave them our traffic control plan. I said, if you are finding people are having problems getting there or finding it, to let us know, and we will work together to come up with whatever you think we should do for better signage there, and then, we'll take care of that, so.
Now, is that all county-owned gravel, or is there some township roads there coming off of 23 to get to the state park?
It depends how you get there. The road from the park straight south is gravel all the way to our County Road 1. That's all our road. But I think that if you went south from the park and then headed west to 23, I think that's probably the way most people would go,
Because it's a shorter distance.
because it's shorter. That is township.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if people can't find the park, blah, 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 we'll sign them both if we have to, saying, this is how you get to the state park for now, so.
How about additional gravel and grading and maybe some calcium chloride for dust control? Have you thought about those?
We've been doing more grading in the area. There's a lot of big heavy loads coming in there that, it just how it happened, it's what I expected, for this time of year. But, in an effort to make our May deadline, our Memorial Day goal, we knew this was going to happen. So, we've been blading more down there to help keep up on that. If we have to do some gravel or something too, so be it, so.
Imagine some of that'll depend on how much later than Memorial Day we go, because right now I would assume the traffic into the state park is relatively light.
Right.
But after Memorial Day, that certainly will tick up.
Yep.
Start picking up in May.
Yeah, so there's too many variables right now, I guess, but I'm not opposed to that. If it's this project drags on a little bit and it's a dry year, we'll certainly look at that. But I mean, if it's raining, I don't know, half an inch every other day or something like that,
Calcium chloride on mud.
Yeah, exactly. We might not do any good. So we'll see. But I'm not opposed to doing anything there. So.
Just have to keep an eye on it.
Yep, exactly. So.
Anything else for Nick?
Oh.
Well, thank you, Nick.
All right, sounds good. I think I'll stick around for that gun range discussion in case there's any questions I can help answer. So.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Amanda.
Good morning. So, what we are here today is to set the date and time for the classification of the tax forfeited lands. And there's the 2 parcels from Central School, and then there's 3 other parcels that were basically forfeited property from actually last year that I added on to that. So you should have those certificate of forfeitures, copies of those in your packet. And I guess what I would probably do, we will do this, but I would encourage you guys to also, check out these parcels and see if there's anything that we're gonna wanna do prior to putting them up for sale or anything like that. And then you can kinda let me know, and I know we'll kinda get together. No, I don't know, Steve, I don't know, was it like a building committee, or is there a building committee?
Yeah, we have a building and grounds committee.
but yet would they be the ones that would deal with reviewing that tax forfeited property
Probably
and
the
the
best ones to
value?
use. Yes.
So then we'd probably kind of get together and with the assessor's office and, to determine value and that sort of thing, which that would be the next step. But this step would be just classifying it as the conservation, non-conservation, so. But we want to kind of start the other processes just to keep it going now that we've got it.
Any idea how long after this, June 14th date that they'll be available to the public?
Well, like I said, I think that if we can kind of start looking at it and get some valuations in mind, and then thought being that we do the classification, and then we can right away start talking about determining a sale date and price. That would be the next step, or minimum sale price.
And what kind of a lead time do you need for that?
We're gonna have to publish and that sort of thing. I am not 100% for sure how long I have to publish, but I can get back to you on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Amanda,
Yeah.
if, it seems how we got multiple properties then that we're gonna be doing the hearing on for conservation, non-conservation. If one of these other properties is in question for being a conservation area, would that slow up the process for all of it, or could that be separated out?
Each one would be separate.
Yep, so if there is one that is, it
Yep.
wouldn't impact the
Yep,
timing on the
we would
others.
just not maybe put that one for sale or something if we needed to. Or again, if one of them, we determined we wanted to do some work to
Yep.
or something, I don't know.
Because obviously, we'd like to expedite this as much as we can, but we also realize we have to follow all of the guidelines. But I just want to make sure that if we had one conservation property, it wouldn't slow down the process for everything. It
Yep.
wouldn't.
And I don't anticipate any of them would be.
No, I don't either. It's a really kind of it's a technicality and it's a frustrating one.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, we all know the story on the central school. Is there a story for these other three? Are there, how much they're behind, or if
I really don't know much about the properties.
The first one, if I may, that 21-260-0740 is a tiny sliver of land next to abandoned railroad property in Woodstock.
Triangle.
That somehow, I believe it was somebody else owned it, and then it came
Yeah, I
back to the
think-
O'Hearns.
Oh, okay.
And it's a triangle, little itty bitty piece. It's actually in a field. I don't know if it was old railroad property or what it was, but it's to anybody else, it's a worthless piece of ground except for the person that owns the property,
Okay.
owns the field. So this is basically, I think, to clean up an old one that never got paid for whatever reason.
Clean up some old paperwork.
Yep. That's just immediately west of the blacktop in Woodstock. Is that right? Looks like.
This would be,
I believe it's east. By the elevator, it kinda goes along the old railroad as it
Oh, it
heads
goes
out
east of the
towards.
elevator, not
yeah.
west of the elevator.
right.
Okay.
I think this would be the elevator.
Yeah,
side.
elevator's right over there.
Elevator would be
Kinda
like
to the
down
east.
there.
Oh, okay. Some railroad land that didn't get taken care
Yeah,
of.
something strange in that.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of title stuff going on where,
That been Casey
like
Jones?
maybe
Yeah.
there were some transfers that didn't
Yeah,
fully get done. And
that's adjoining some of the Casey Jones property that.
Does that impact Casey Jones?
Well, it adjoins it. Because where's the elevator at?
Right down here.
Yeah,
Okay.
That was one of the issues going through town that we were looking at.
yep, trying to get over to the city park on the east side of Woodstock, trying to
Right.
find a route through there. Yeah.
Yep.
So, we'll check it out. I think you still have that set of Quonset huts right by the elevator. They're still in the path, so it'd be more involved than just that piece of farmland there.
Exactly.
And the second one, 18-550-0850, is attached to the property that the city bought from the county 2 seasons ago for
30.
the,
It's running
for
here.
the,
Third Avenue.
redo the house on Highway 30 and Third.
Yep.
The old gray house there. They're doing that as a blight project.
Oh, this is that
actually
one just
the-
straight
The other
north there.
half.
Yeah, that little
Part.
parcel.
Yeah, so it'd be this,
The north part of the house is actually on that parcel,
Correct.
but it was two
Right.
separate ones, so it wasn't.
And it forfeited at different years.
Right.
So that will, in all
Clean up that.
reality, will go to the city with, to go with the house. That just cleans that up.
That's a
and-
cleanup type deal.
Yeah, that's a cleanup one, so that one's not. The only other one is the third one. That's actually a house in Hatfield on a large property.
roadhouse is up here, parking lot across the street. And as you're driving in to Hatfield, normally I turn around at this corner. And so it's the house right on that corner
Okay.
and the lot. Here's their city hall or
Okay,
Of all of them, that'll be the one that will have some, probably some value to someone to pick up, because there is it's a gray, story and a half, almost two-story house there, and a very large lot that goes back to the south with it. You know,
you know, when we talk about conservation, area conservation district, it comes to mind wetlands and
It's
so
not
forth.
conservation district, don't get those
a
confused.
different term.
Conservation land primarily goes to forest land and things like that.
Not sloughs and waterways,
No.
things like that, that's
No,
different.
no, it's a totally different animal than you're thinking of soil and water conservation district. It
Yeah.
really isn't. It's state lands and that type of thing that there might be value for county or the state to get a hold of in conservation type areas. Forests are what really come to mind on that. So none of these are, as Amanda says, they're not gonna show up as conservation properties. But it is part of the law that we have to comply with. That's why it's there, because I'm sure back in the day, some good land went someplace else and wasn't supposed to. Who knows? I can just imagine.
Thank you for that explanation.
Some of the examples for that conservation land are like waterfront, timber, state park or rec,
Yeah.
that type of stuff.
So.
So we'd like a motion to accept this so we can schedule
Right.
it'd be a rather short, public meeting on June 14th, and remember, Domain was here, county attorney was here and recommended that this is the process we go through with this using statute 28201, so we're following his lead on this to get this done, so.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion that we set a public hearing then for June 14th at 10 o'clock here in the Commissioners' Room to address the conservation, non-conservation status of these 5 properties.
I will second that. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I don't think we can do my other one till 10.
No, we gotta
so-
wait till 10 on that one.
Do we wanna slip Kathy in here quick?
We can do that.
Morning.
Good morning,
Morning.
Kathy.
Couple things for the board this morning. So, the first one is a separation agreement that was handed out, this morning before the board meeting. And this is basically, stating that Justin Schroyer, full-time jailer's dispatcher, will be resigning on May 1st, 2022. And I need board approval to approve his resignation, approve the separation agreement, and authorize my signature on the separation agreement. It's already been reviewed by, it's already been signed by Justin, the union representative. Keith signed this morning. So upon board approval, this will be fully executed separation agreement.
Chair, move for approval.
I'll support that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. Next, I have an announcement basically on our hiring process for the jailer dispatchers. So we recently re-advertised for and did several interviews, and we have made an offer on our one open position to that Corey Hakala, who I handed out his information this morning, is starting on the 19th. So he'll be starting as a full-time jailer on April 19th. And then with Justin's spot vacated, we actually do have a second person that we would like to make an offer to. We haven't made an offer yet, so I can't say his name. They've done the background check and references and stuff, and they're ready to make an offer to him now that the second spot is open. So that is the plan. Hopefully that person will accept, and we'll be back fully staffed again in a few weeks. So that is my update on that. Any questions? Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy. What other one did I just see?
Chairman, I would say you have time to do a few committee reports in the next few minutes if you want to. Or if you want to take a break, you can do that too.
Yeah, let's take a little break, because it's gonna get hot and heavy here.
Time to refill the coffee cups.
Yeah, right?
We're back in session. Amanda.
All right, so we have a couple of new home initiative tax abatements, so we're going to do the public hearing for those.
This time we'll open up the public hearing.
So the first,
Yeah.
Motion?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're in public hearing right now.
first property is parcel 13,460,0070. Lloyd's Wort put the application in, and that's down in Edgerton. Gonna build a new home on it, and there's no existing home on the lot.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Okay.
How many tax abatements can one person have?
I guess I don't know that our policy has any
Limitations?
limit on,
Someone asked me that. 'Cause I think he has one that's in force right now.
I don't believe there is any limitation on that, based on our records, is that he will be in turn selling the house, and then the person who actually will own the house will get the tax abatement, not the developer.
That's in theory, right?
That's the way it's supposed to work, yeah.
So the tax abatement comes with the house and goes with the house, not the
property.
person.
The property.
correct,
Yep.
yep.
Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve the tax abatement for Lloyd Swart.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next one?
And the next parcel is 0100505550 from Matthew and Heidi Schaefer. And there was a home there that they tore down, and they are building a new home on that location.
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval.
And I will second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Entertain a motion to come out of the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We're a little bit ahead of time, but we're gonna bring Dave and Brad up.
Okay, if Joel comes with us.
Sure. Just bring a chair. Here about a week ago, I guess it was, Dave and Brad met with Steve and I to go over some plans to bring before the board. So at this time, we'll let them just go ahead and make their presentation.
Yes, Brad, would you want to hand them out, please?
Thank you.
Thank you. Give one to the two members of the media, please. And if everybody in back wants to take a look at one, they're sure welcome to take a look at them too. Nick, do you have one? I don't have one. Okay, let's give one to Nick too, the highway engineer, please. Looks like you got plenty.
I made a few extra.
Excellent. Jermaine, did you get one?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
I'd like to take a moment to thank you all to hear us, take this time to hear us. And I'd like to start with, we formed the Pipestone Sportsman's Club, and our mission statement is that we'd like to provide a facility that's safe, enjoyable, and economical. It allows members, guests, and our community to participate in the shooting sports and the fellowship of the gun club, to promote youth and adult education in safe firearms safety and assist local law enforcement in any way possible. We feel this will impact the community as the Pipestone Sportsman's Club will operate to provide a safe environment for amateurs, for the amateur sport of trap shooting, rifle, and pistol sports. The Sportsman's Club will provide its activities in our community and surrounding area. So Pipestone Sportsman's Club will also promote the sport of shooting for women and youth, including family shooting sports in a friendly, safe environment. Also, the Pipestone Sportsman's Club will promote the sport of trap shooting by hosting and sponsoring amateur contests and providing a facility for local educational institutions. We think this is going to benefit the community through the FFA, through 4-H, through Hunter Safety Course, through the Pipestone area schools, with helping out local hotels and restaurants and other retailers, as well as the Sheriff's Department and helping with the permit to carry classes. Recently, there was a release in the Pipestone County Star. So we're going to use some of their information here. They give us a graph showing the increases. The Pipestone, the state of Minnesota experienced a record high number of issued permits to carry in 2021 since the exacting of the state's Personal Protection Act in 2003. In 2021, the Minnesota sheriffs issued 106,488 permits, 909,934 more than were given out in 2020. Overall, 110,078 applications were received this past year, with 176 permits being suspended, 40 revoked, 1,165 voided, and 1,627 denied in 2021. According to the press release dated March 1st from the Minnesota Department of Safety, Public Safety and Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, according to Sheriff Keith Vreeman, the Pipestone County issued 201 permits to carry in 2021, with 118 applications being new and 83 applications renewals. Those numbers are up from 2020, when the county issued 137 permits to carry, and 97 of which were for new applicants and 40 were for renewals. And looking into some nationwide statistics, according to the ATF statistics, 2020, there are 7 million new gun owners. We are looking at the county. We've been endorsed by the 4-H, Pipestone County Sheriff's Department, the DNR, Pipestone American Legion, post number 6, and Pipestone County Pheasants Forever. We're all endorsing this. We intend to use financials from DNR grants, which there are many and numerous. Pittman Bows, which is a national grant that we can apply for each year, as well as numerous government grants. Local and federal, or local fundraisers and donations will also be included. Looking into insurance companies, we've looked into specialized insurance companies to develop and operate of gun clubs, but of course nobody can quote us because we don't have anything yet. So that's what we're here for. We have included maps in the back that we may look at and review. The state of Minnesota has adopted the National Rifle Association's Range Source Rules Book. Chuck Niska of the Department of Natural Resources has reviewed our site map and layout, and believes that Pipestone County Sportsman's Club is in compliance. Our proposal is that we at the Pipestone Sportsman's Club, we're a nonprofit LLC, are asking the Pipestone County Board of Commissioners to sell or lease the property located at 1491 130th Street, Pipestone, Minnesota. It's in Rock Township, Section 31, to the Pipestone Sportsman's Club, a nonprofit, for a nominal fee of $1. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Dave?
Just commented, just thanking you guys for putting this together. This is terrific. You know, you talk about all of the impact it would have on our local organizations, and you didn't even comment about the fact that the economic impact it'll have on the area as well too will be very appreciable. That's very nice.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. That is something we probably overlooked at this moment.
The only question that I'm gonna have is gonna be that for our county attorney then, Demain. Again, we all realize that county-owned property, that there's quite a process to sell a piece of county-owned property. Is that same scrutiny applied if we lease a piece of property? Would it be cleaner and simpler for us to lease this property for 100 years or something like that? Or would it be better to try to go through all of the steps to sell a property? What is your opinion?
Either way, you gotta jump through the hoops, lease or sale.
Yeah.
You know, you got that competitive bidding aspect out there that, you know, that hits you square on. When the county, you know, leases some of the farmland we own, it goes up for bids. High bidder gets it.
Right.
But I can't see it being any different with an old gravel pit. And if you just want to sell it, then you're still running into the whole competitive bidding aspect of it, that it'd have to be advertised, offered for sale. You know, much like you're doing up on North Hiawatha, you know, everybody knows what wants to go in there, but you still have to offer it to the public and let those who want it place a bid. So it's not just an issue of, is there gonna be a great benefit to the county? Is there gonna be anything like that? You still gotta follow the law.
Okay.
So how can we facilitate this? Do you have a plan of action to lay out for us?
I don't believe you have a way to facilitate it to a single party. You just gotta follow the
Right,
law.
right.
Follow each step of, okay, you know, taking a resolution saying we're gonna sell or lease this property, then going through the advertising process, getting bids, getting people to come in. And obviously, we know there's gonna be one bidder here. You know, whether or not there might be someone else that might have a competing interest, who knows? But you still gotta jump through each one of those hoops to be able to sell or lease it.
It would probably be easier to steer it to this group with the lease though, correct?
I don't believe it'd be easier at all.
Okay.
You still gotta go through the process.
Yeah, it's the same process for either one.
Chances are somebody else wouldn't wanna lease it for,
I don't think there'd be many other uses for it on a lease arrangement.
if it's a played out gravel pit.
Right. And it's not really farmable.
Gravel guys aren't gonna want it.
Yeah. I would think the lease arrangement would be, I mean, even though you have to go through the process,
Right.
I would still think that'd be the more likely to be successful.
Do we still reserve the right, like we would for a sale, that we can accept or reject any bids? Can we do that with a lease as well too? So,
Yes.
okay.
One word answer, is that allowed?
Yes.
I have a couple questions or observations. Does the Pipestone Area School have a shooting club? Are
Not
they-
at this time.
Not at this time. Would you be starting one of them too?
Absolutely, we would be after, the state of Minnesota has the largest high school trap participation in the nation. We also have the largest meet with over 10,000 students held up in the metropolitan area.
Both schools in Edgerton have a trap club.
Absolutely, we're
Would
trying to
they be
cater to that.
allowed to use the facility?
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's one of our focuses of putting it together, is to be able to bring,
So it's not
Bring it in.
it's not a private club?
no,
Okay.
it'll be public.
It's open to membership, the way I understand
Yes,
it.
more than likely how it works for insurance companies is people have to buy a membership. It'd be like a day membership.
Nominal fee
You
or
come in
something.
one day, you're technically a member for a day,
Yeah.
you know. So, and it just helps for insurances, so you don't have, I'm not sure how that all works legally yet. I've not dove into it deep enough.
I think right now they shoot at a private guy's
Right.
place, so.
Yep. We're really want to get it so that we have all the schools involved in coming out there.
Well, you got a head start in Edgerton, so
The more traffic we can get in, the better it's gonna be for
I
the.
think there's a half a dozen in the public school and there's like 25, I think, in the Christian school.
Yep.
I spoke with the FFA instructors at the PAS here, and they're all for it. They haven't had a club for, I think, 2 years. So they're huge advocates of getting this going, helping, doing whatever they can. Of course, it has to go up the ladder there to start developing that again, which is okay. That's the way it works.
That's what ladders are for, correct?
Right?
You mentioned big meets in the metro area. Also in Alexandria, there's a big one in June.
Yep.
And again, talk about economic impact. I was up there one time and there wasn't a hotel room to be had anywhere. It's amazing what these can do.
It's phenomenal. I would be shocked. I'm in the shooting sports, but I shoot pistol and rifle and stuff, and not much trap. And I'm just shocked at how big trap is in the state of Minnesota. It is tremendous.
Just so you guys know, our local 4-H shooting sports is actually quite huge. Dean
right.
Schultz highly enthusiastically endorses this.
Right.
Very, very huge.
You know, I think this is a terrific idea, and anything
I
we
do
can do
too.
to make this happen.
Just that we gotta start our process of going through the hoops. So,
Can we start that today yet?
Yes. What can we do?
well,
Not to put you on the
That's right,
spot.
that's right.
You know what I'm saying? 'Cause we gotta like
I would
get this
say-
going this year, as soon as we can.
Demaine, give me a hip shot. How many days?
No pun intended. I mean, realistically, the board has to entertain a motion to either sell or lease the property. You gotta kinda go through with the same process you're going through right now in North Hiawatha.
Yep.
So, Steve, you've been spearheading that, with the platting of those lots out there. And then now, I think the advertisement came out for bids in the paper.
Yep, that won't be that'll be after today, so that's a 60-day process for that,
So,
for
yeah,
the lease. It's really not much different than when Nick wants to lease farm ground.
Mhm.
I mean, basically run it the same way. We have to take bids on it and open them up at a public meeting and see what we've got for lease of the ground for X number of years. I don't know if you wanna say it's 100 years or anything like that, but, once we get that taken care of, then we've got to work with, a lease agreement as well to make sure that we have liabilities all taken care of on that. I did contact MCIT and did get them pinned down and got a quote from them that says, MCIT does not specifically exclude liability coverage for shooting ranges. With that said, coverage depends on the facts and the allegations of the claim, right, from an insurance person. Pipestone County, as the owner of the land, would typically be brought into any claim or lawsuit as the owner. The agreement with the Sportsman's Club would be crucial to transfer as much of the risk as possible to the Sportsman's Club. MCIT recommends having the Sportsman's Club agree to indemnify, defend, and hold harmless Pipestone County for any claim arising out of the shooting range. In addition, to name Pipestone County as an additional insured on their insurance policies. Pretty well standard stuff. And he did recommend possibly even having higher limits than the 500,000 and 100,000 per claim and per occurrence. Might have to be higher than that.
Yes.
Based on the nature of what's going on out there.
Standard policy is higher than that.
Yes, that's, would make sense if it's an inherently dangerous event in sports that's going on out there, so.
The trap is actually the safest sport in high school. Truly, there have been no injuries in trap, where in football, basketball, wrestling,
Right.
you know, students are injured. So it's truly a safe sport, or it's a safe.
You know, then if I may, it comes back on you as the commissioners to determine whether or not you think a lease is in the best interest of the public, or if you want to divest yourself of any possible liability, a sale. You know, you don't have to worry about liability if you don't own the property. Just a practical point here.
I mean, that poses another question for me then, and that was the whole idea of either sell or lease to limit the county's liability. But with MCIT, is there any avenue where we can maintain ownership? It's still our property, that the Sportsman's Club doesn't have to lease it, but that we allow them to develop it? Or is that getting a little bit too muddied of waters, that we don't even lease the property? We still maintain ownership of the property. We don't lease it to them, but we allow them to build the facility out there.
You're getting too muddy there.
Okay.
That's my opinion. Because again, your issue is liability.
Right. But that's what I was wondering, if MCIT would make a distinction in our liability, whether we allow this to be built on our property or if we lease the property to another party.
So you're basically giving them a license as opposed to a lease.
Yes, yep. Is that worth exploring with
Well,
MCIT?
From your standpoint as commissioners, everything's worth exploring.
I think a lease would be better, personally, in my opinion, or a sale.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can look at everything, but a lease means you own it. I don't know what the highway department has any need for that in the future. If this doesn't, 20, 30 years down the road, this comes back to us, or what the board wants to do.
Les, there's a question from the
Talk about
audience as
future
well
boards
too.
now.
Mark?
I just listened to this all fold out here a little bit, being as I was on the box before when we first came to you. On the lease situation, Domain, with this piece of ground, being kind of tangible to the EPA with the landfill next to it and the water table at the surface, if you were gonna lease it out, you guys would have to have pretty good criteria on who or what it was leased for. With them restraints tighter, maybe that would make the lease an opportunity yet for the Sportsman's Club, because you got it. You wouldn't want a cattle guy putting cows in the pit.
Right.
Next to the landfill. There's certain things that could be used for, not very many.
Yeah, that's right.
So when we offer it for lease,
My other question, would they have to accept the highest bid, or could they accept the best idea for the property, based with its environmental aspects?
The county the commissioners have the right to usually reject or accept any bids. You know, but it's gotta be based on reason. You can't just do it randomly.
Right.
So, the commissioners, as a general rule, in any type of lease or sale situation, I believe you take into consideration everything. You know, more often than not, on road projects, it's the low bid, because you're saving taxpayer money. On a sale, more often than not, you take the high bid unless you have a reason to reject that high bid.
right. But our reasoning, if we were to reject another bid other than the Sportsman's Club bid, we would have to have some justification for that,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Could definitely use the impact that we would have on the community and the surrounding and the youth versus a cattle lot, a feed lot, or somebody gravel or something like that, has no impact to them.
I think the community presence speaks a lot for itself too.
Oh, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Thank you.
I guess at this point, we wanna pursue it,
Yeah.
but we gotta figure out which option we're gonna go with. Lease or sale.
I feel a lease would probably be the best way
Okay.
for us to go along with this.
Okay,
And I would like to get the process started today. So can we set, if we agree upon the direction of leasing, can we set a date then for a public hearing? Do we have to have a public hearing to lease, or we can just set it to we just have to do like we do normally and just have to advertise for a certain period of time if we're gonna lease a piece of property?
Let's go ahead and advertise for a period of time. We can work on that, I would think.
Okay?
And in regards to Mark's question, can we set stipulations on how the lease can be used?
You mean how the property can be
Or
used?
how the property can be used that we're leasing? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, that's the give and take of a lease. You know, if it comes to the point where there is a determination made to go ahead to lease the property out, to take the bids, obviously, there's gonna have to be a detailed lease. And there's gonna have to be a lot of detailed provisions dealing with the indemnification and hold harmless. So that is not something that's gonna be overnight. Because, you know, from my standpoint as the advisor for the county, you can't stop the county from getting sued, but you certainly wanna try to stop them from losing any money. So they should have no liability whatsoever, and you gotta make something, you know, again, no pun intended, as bulletproof as possible.
Yep. Absolutely.
I mean, like, could you have stipulations where due to the proximity of the landfill site, that you would exclude all ag operations, or, you know, kind of narrow it down to,
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that in a lease. If the sportsman clubs would be the high bidder, and a lease would be entered into, obviously, you know the general purpose, what the land is gonna be leased for. You can limit the, use of land. You know, if the county or the highway department leases out certain farmland that the county has, obviously, you know they're not gonna strip the topsoil. That's not what it's for. You know, nor are they gonna open a new pit. You know, it has a very specific purpose. So the lease, I anticipate with whoever would get the pit out there would be for a very specific purpose.
So at this point, I would like to recommend that our next meeting will be the 26th of April. And I would like to ask that Steve and Domain, that you guys work together on putting together terms of a lease for this property that we could act on at that time. I think it'd be premature to act on anything today because we don't really have a specific lease agreement. Does that make sense, that we have you guys prepare the terms for a lease, so at that time we could act on that and go ahead and advertise to lease the property out once we know what the terms are? Would that be logical?
Probably need a motion to that effect, but I would make a motion that we pursue a lease, a long-term lease for this section, parcel of land. Not necessarily to the Sportsman's Club, but start the process.
And then have them bring it to us at our next meeting to actually act on the
Well,
terms
so
of the
that
lease.
gives them the authority to start.
I would second the motion.
Thank you.
I have a question before we, just getting back to the map that folds out. These little black lines at the end of the reds, I'm assuming are berms of some
Yes,
type?
they just signify berms. It was easier to do that than,
Yeah.
on the map than, Kyle Cryer, his software isn't really good for doing some of that stuff.
Sure.
So this was as best as he could do. We didn't wanna use up a lot of his time.
And are they approximately the same size as the one around the youth area?
Yeah, the berm that you see there is actually a little wider than it needs to be, because the side berms have to be 15 feet tall. then you have to be 30 feet wide. So that's actually a little wider, but yes, there should be berms around all of the shooting bays, except for the 600-yard bay. There'll be just a backstop on that one, and then a berm along the side near the beginning of it.
Right.
And that all goes back to this rule book that you alluded to before, the National Rifle Association Range Resource Book. So this is all in compliance with that.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
And that's what you use to set that.
Their berms, they say you have to have a 20-foot berm as a backstop and 15-foot on the sides.
Yeah.
We need to be 300 feet from the back of the property. So we'll push the 600-yard bay down further so that we are 300 feet away from the back, and so on.
Do you also fence around the whole downrange area as well too?
Yes, there's state ground there, and they have a pretty large, I think it's a 6-foot fence along there anyways. So we'll probably utilize that fence, and then as fundings permit, we'll be putting fences along the road and the other area.
Mr. Chair, I'm all in favor of the long-term lease, but shouldn't we specify years?
And I'm thinking that's part of what I'm asking Steve and Domain to come up with a lease recommendation for us to figure out what the terms of this lease would be.
That's why I didn't put a year amount in my motion, so.
So at this point, your motion is just
For
to
long-term.
pursue this.
Well, and they're gonna want a certain amount of time if they're gonna improve it, you know.
There's a lot of work and labor that goes into building this,
Absolutely.
so.
What is the topography of not familiar with that, but is it relatively flat, or some of the berm stuff done already, or the waste pile, or whatever?
No,
It's just flat
it's
ground.
relatively flat, except for the very dark areas is low ground and there's water and marshy. It's not a wetland though, it's man-made.
Actually, there is a berm, the sheriff's department has a berm halfway
Right.
down onto the range. There's
Yeah.
a berm.
So
On
that's
the east
where
side.
they've been,
We wouldn't utilize that at this time, but there's a berm there currently.
It's right here.
the only other use I see for this parcel would be solar, but that would be a whole different ball of wax,
Yep.
you know.
Okay, is there any further
And
discussion?
of course, you could deny that if you wanted as well.
Well, if they would bid on it or whatever, you know, you could steer it to these guys because of the local factor.
Right.
Just a question, have you by chance reached out to the state of Minnesota, as they're the adjoining landowner from the old landfill?
Yes, I have. I've talked with Chuck Niska, the coordinator of ranges and grant writers from Minnesota, who got on the phone with him right away to get them involved because of their adjacent land to the south. Had many conversations with Chuck, and he endorses it. We sent him a copy of our plan here, and the state doesn't actually offer a permit. That relies on the county, but they're reviewed it and very supportive of it.
Okay, good.
Nice.
I guess just for clarification, if we could have the motion read back so we know exactly what the wording on the motion is.
The motion I have is pursue a lease long-term and start the process with the Pipestone Sportsman's Club.
And
Wording was kind of convoluted as we're going
Right.
through this here, so
Yeah.
it's really hard to
Yeah.
give you exact what was said. There was a lot of wording going on there.
do we want to include in then some target dates? Can you have this put together for us in 2 weeks?
That's pushing it.
Okay.
I agree with Steve.
That's not probably realistic. I mean, if we're gonna come up with the information for advertising for the property, that could probably be done, but coming up with a multi-page lease agreement for, review and possible action, I think probably gonna need a month or so. I think we're gonna wanna reach out to other organizations that have leases with sporting facilities and gun clubs and that type of thing to see what kind of leases they have and kind of be able to mold something together. I'm not gonna, try to do this from scratch. There's other organizations out there that can help us along, and other counties that are doing the same thing, be it shooting or archery or what have you.
There's templates.
Exactly. Get
Would you
some
also
help on
like to
that.
bring in the Buildings and Ground Committee to work with you on this?
I think that would be fine.
If you'd like that.
I would like to have a committee of 2 commissioners on here. Building and grounds would be a good one.
Well, it is building the grounds.
Yeah.
Is that all right with you, Dallas,
Sure.
with your motion,
Amend
that
that.
part of that motion?
Okay,
So maybe by the May 10th meeting?
That's probably more realistic.
that'd be a month.
It's far more realistic.
Okay.
Because I guess back in discussion as well too, so obviously for the Sportsman's Club, the sooner the better for you, but do you have a timeline that you would need for any of the other grants and so forth?
Yeah, we can't proceed with anything, let alone insurance, grants,
Right.
any of that until we get authorization from you as a county and start doing stuff. I mean, that's just the way it lays.
Kinda what I've assumed,
You guys are
yep.
aware of that, so we just assume that.
Because we want to do whatever we can to help you move this project along.
Correct, yeah, appreciate it.
But we gotta follow the statutes too.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, it's
So-
always hoops, that's not a problem.
We ready to call a question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Process is started.
Sorry it's so slow, but
I have one quick question. If we come up with any information that we deem valuable, do we have a go-to person to talk to?
Steve,
Absolutely,
Please.
absolutely.
that's our filtering process.
Yep, to me.
I'd like to thank you, commissioners, for hearing our proposal today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Looking forward.
Very exciting.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else for me? Because I have a hearing starting 5 minutes ago upstairs.
You better get moving.
We'll see you.
Thanks, Demaine.
Have a great day.
You too.
You bet, good to see you, thank you.
Thank you.
Joe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Get her done.
Move up Bill since he's here, or?
What's that?
Bill since he's here, do you think, or not waste his time?
We gotta do this one, closed session. Or this one.
Oh, yeah. Here in 5 minutes, yeah, okay.
Let them clear out.
Thank you all again, appreciate it.
Take care, Brad.
See ya.
You know, another advantage of leasing it to them instead of selling it to them, if we sold it to them, then they would have to pay property tax on it.
True.
They got a good plan.
Maybe we should sell it to them. That's some valuable
idea.
property.
We have an idea, that's, yeah, what can you do?
Okay, next item we have is approve the final North Hiawatha plot.
Mr. Chairman, what I have before you is a request for board action for the approval of the final plat of North Hiawatha Edition, authorize the board chair and administrator to sign on behalf of the county. The background on that is the North Hiawatha plat has been approved by the city of Pipestone City Council by resolution 2022-18 on March 7th, 2022, which you have a copy of that in your packet as well. The plat has been completed and presented to the county by our surveying agent Buell Mosing Land Surveying out of Marshall, the company chosen by the county to survey and develop the plat for the land. I have a copy of the signed plat action that the city took in your packets as well. Before this can be filed with the the recorder's office, we need to have signatures done, and the board needs to approve the board chair and administrator to sign the plat. That's the action requested.
Mr. Chair, I will move that we approve the final plat for this North Hiawatha edition and then authorize Steve and County Attorney Sandy to sign the documents for the final plat.
It's actually the board chairman.
Board Chair, okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next,
For that,
entertain a motion to go into closed session for the discuss the sale of the property at North Hiawatha Edition.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second, go into closed session. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
thank you. Thanks for coming. Now I have to have you step up.
We're gonna put a can on the door.
We've been waiting a long time to throw a politician out of here. So.
Been thrown out of better places than that. Okay, we're not. Oh, you gotta record it.
Okay, we're recording again, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the recommendation to the board would be to approve the bidding documents for the potential sale of property located at 1091 North Hiawatha Avenue, City of Pipestone, and advertise that in our local newspapers as prescribed by the rules for bidding.
And do you have the dates there as well, too?
Yes, we will take bids on till 3 p.m. on Friday, May 6th. They will be sent to the auditor's office. Bids will be opened Tuesday, May 10th, 2022 at 10 a.m.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I would like to move that we do pursue the sale of this property under the guidelines that Steve just read there as far as the dates and so forth, and also the parcel number.
I will second the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Senator Weber, you have the floor.
Very nice to see you, Senator.
Good to be here.
You survived the metro area?
We have survived, and so we've been operating fully open. We do have, in the Senate, we do have what we call hybrid hearings. People can be in person or they can be through Zoom and what have you. And I'm assuming we will always have a certain amount of that. Obviously, you know, from out here, it's a long ways to drive for a 5-minute testimony, you know, and so I think that'll probably be around for quite a while, but
Hope so.
yeah, and so, but otherwise, things are going well. By the way, Commissioner Johnson, you're going to be getting a contact about testifiers for the Highway 23 project.
Oh, okay.
So the chairman of the Senate Transportation hearing is going to have a day of hearings where and testifying for all the earmark projects that he's got for members. So
Okay.
so I told him you were the person to contact.
Sure. Thank you. Nice to see it's at least still on the list.
Yeah, yeah. So, but otherwise, we're, you know, basically, we go back into session a week from today. Session runs till May 23rd. People ask me what they should expect. I say, don't expect much. You know, the reality of it is our budget is in place until June 30th of next year. So there's nothing we absolutely have to do. This would typically be a bonding year, and yeah, I'd like to see a bonding bill. There's, you know, that provides the money for PFA for our water, wastewater treatment centers around the state, and you know, for our state buildings, and a certain amount of highway transportation bonds and that type of thing are included in that, but you know, I don't know I honestly don't know what's going to happen. People on in the House, there are some of them that indicate that unless we vote to give them everything they want with the law enforcement reforms, they're not going to pass a bonding bill. And I have said publicly, I'm not going to sell our law enforcement people out for any amount of money for anything. So, and I think the people of this area generally agree with that principle. So,
Very strongly.
yeah. And so we'll see what happens. There's, we basically got 5 long weeks ahead of us yet, and a lot can happen in those 5 weeks. But we passed a tax bill in the Senate last week, the largest tax cut for the individual in Minnesota's history, removing income tax from Social Security benefits, and cutting the lowest tax rate from 5.35 to 2.8. Where that'll all shake out, I don't know. Obviously, the House has a lot different version of what they want to do, and we of course laid our bill on the table because tax bills have to generate in the House, and so they'll send theirs over, and we'll put ours in its place, and then it'll go wind up in conference committee. Obviously, one of the things that's certainly in the last couple of weeks, since your notices that need to go out, when I say your, I mean counties in general, as far as valuations and tax amounts, property taxes are taking a little more of getting more attention right now, particularly with the values the way they've done, and it doesn't matter. It seems like ag values are going up strongly. Residential values, they're all going up, and so in front of my property tax subcommittee, we do have bills to raise the ag homestead, the residential homestead, and the resort homestead, and I think there will be some raising of all those elements, and at this point, that doesn't cost the state any money. It does create some shifting, but I don't think it's anything that's real serious in that respect. So, and then beyond that, I guess, what are the questions you have?
I got one.
Yes.
I know Commissioner Burgers has been here a number of times. On mental health, where are we at for some assistance?
That's a very good question. We have in the different programs that the Senate has been talking about, and would be mental health through a variety of agencies. We're looking at about a $50 million program, and not all of that comes through to the counties. Obviously, there's a certain amount for schools,
right?
And other areas. I think everyone is recognizing that it's become more of an issue. It's obviously a serious problem for counties because what our sheriff's departments are being forced to deal with it, our local hospitals, and neither one is trained in mental health situations to speak of. And so, and the other issue that we have out there is 3 years ago, I think it was, in a bonding bill, we included money so that we could build a number of small regional centers so that you didn't have to transport people so far if they were, in a crisis mode and needed treatment. And yet, I think out of the 6 or 8 that were authorized, there's only been 2 that have been built. Because like around here, most of the problem is finding someone that will operate it. It cannot afford to operate it.
Right, right.
And so we continue to tell them that that's an issue out here. I don't know if we'll get that solution in place this year or not. But
many times I drive past when we go up to a CPP meeting in Morris, that facility in Appleton, just sitting there.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a waste of money. The upkeep on it, they're doing anyhow.
Well, and we've even had proposals to actually open it as a prison because technically we need additional cells in the state of Minnesota. And the metro area just battles it because they don't want the people from live in the metro area to have to go that far away. And it's like, sorry, there's a price to pay for everything at this point in time. But anyway, it's a real challenge.
Yeah.
It's a real challenge.
I just think it's such a big facility just sitting there.
Yeah.
If it could be used, part of it for mental health or whatever.
No, that's right. Well, and actually, there is a plan actually to take part of the Prairie Justice Center over in Worthington, for example, and remodel that into you know, 6 or 8 beds, I forget what the number was,
I
but
think it was 8.
yeah, and you know, but there again, finding somebody to actually operate it is a real challenge.
We were approached at Southwest Mental Health, and it's not in the cards.
No, you financially cannot make it work.
When you're already losing some money, how are you gonna, you know, all you're gonna do there is lose some more.
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear you, and there's no one that has a magic answer for this one, I can assure you, because there's a lot of talking and not many answers coming out of the discussion.
And what's happening around us with the economy is, it's just gonna get worse.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, we saw that happen here a few years ago. We put extra money into the Department of Ag for the rural mental health issues, that which really got started back in the 80s when we had the crisis going on. And you know, it's at every level we are having issues, quite frankly, so.
I was surprised to hear recently that crisis line they have took over 30,000 calls this past year.
Yeah.
Pretty big number for.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, and it's one of those things right now, you know, in terms of it, and you're talking about the ag line.
Yes.
Yeah, in terms of agriculture, you know, everyone said, well, golly, you know, commodity prices are so high, but the cost of inputs has risen at a faster rate than the commodity prices have. I've had, you know, people tell me their margins were better 8-9 years ago with low prices than they are now, just because of the high input costs. What we've seen fertilizer, chemical, seed do, and now petroleum. You know, if you didn't have everything bought in advance, you're really, you know, these high commodity prices aren't going to go that far.
Well, it's bought in advance, you're safe for maybe this year, but what's gonna happen
Yeah, what's going to happen next year? That's right. Because I don't think right now the predictions are not. We're not going to see things going down real quickly. So,
You know, what I've read, we're probably looking at 3-4 years to get back out of this,
yeah.
or more.
In some cases, will you even get the product?
Well, that's right.
Afford to pay for it.
That's right. Well, you know, in terms of petroleum products, that could happen much quicker if they would do what they need to do.
Right.
But I doubt that that's going to happen the way it looks. So, and when I say they, I mean the federal government.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Just so there's no question.
It started a year ago in January when they shut down the pipelines.
Yeah, yeah. So,
About fuel standards, why are we gonna be California?
good question. We asked the governor that time and time again.
California.
And I have made that statement in committee a number of times. I don't know of anybody in my district, maybe except for some weather, that would like to be California. You know, and but yeah, unless I just gotten very upfront about it, unless we change governors this fall, you know, everyone's vehicle will cost them more money as well as the fuel to put in it. So it's just ridiculous. And the reality of it is that rulemaking, I don't believe, was ever intended to produce substantial policy changes. It was intended to carry out the policy that the legislature adopted. And they've taken it to a whole new extreme. And so that would be like the county board just handing over to your administrator and his staff to develop a bunch of rules that you know, you publish and then they become effective. I don't think your constituents would tolerate that very long.
Started with the emergency orders
Yes.
for health, and now they're continuing it on. And that's not correct.
No, it's not. Well, and of course, this started even before the California car rules started well in advance of the pandemic. So, and so no, we had a couple hearings on it again this year. In fact, there was a bill introduced and it's worked its way through the Senate. Hasn't been voted on yet. Actually, consumer choice of fuel. I mean, basically does away with that element. Now, it'll pass the Senate, but it'll never pass the House, and it certainly won't be signed by a governor.
Want to thank you again for sponsoring that $3 million annual grant for the emergency management people. I was surprised to hear that the House only approved half the amount,
They cut it to $1.5 million, yeah.
and yet the 3 million into 1.5. And yet every other year prior to this, they have supported the full amount. Are you thinking that they're maybe just going to use it as a bargaining chip in conference committee, or?
Probably. You know, and that's what concerns me is that, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, you know, the things that there technically is agreement on, you know, you just hate to see them come away as bargaining chips at that point. Particularly when we've waited for so long to get more money back into the emergency management system. And you know, there's been some one-time grants, and this is the first time for a long time that there's actually been an increase, and it's built into the budget from every year now on, that $3 million.
Right.
And so I'm hopeful that it won't be, but it certainly would appear that they've postured it for that purpose.
Can you give us any update on local road wetland replacement? Is that going to move forward?
You know, I know that they've had hearings in the Environment Natural Resources Finance Committee for that. There's general support for that. Again, what those numbers will shake out at.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Of course, county-based purchasing, we're kind of awaiting the court decision. You know, I suppose if it doesn't go the way it should, we, you know, may need a legislative clarification. It seems to me the current statute's clear enough, but
Yeah.
Here again, it just seems like the agencies are taking it upon themselves to make their own rules, and rather than follow current statute. And the governor nor the agency heads are really, you know, addressing it
DHS.
the way they should, right?
No. No.
Could I chime in on that as well too? And again, we realize because of the pending litigation that there's not a lot that you can say or do about this time, but we just would like to reinforce with you on how important this county-based purchasing is for us. Again, you know the history of Prime West and so forth. And it's not just Prime West, there are other county-based purchasing people involved with this. And even those that aren't involved with county-based purchasing, because of the procurement process, this truly affects every single county that have to go through the procurement process. So all we're really asking is for Commissioner Holcomb to follow the statute, and the state statutes. It was basically started to allow us to provide county-based purchasing in the first place.
Yeah.
An analogy that we can use, you know the history of the rural electric in this area. That's really how rural electric got started, because the investor-owned utilities, there's no profit for them, so you didn't do it. So that's how it got started. Then once it proved itself viable, then all of a sudden they wanted it all. You know the history of all of that. But it's the same kind of analogy we can draw on here with what we're doing with our Prime West. Now we got the investor-owned insurance groups, whether it be the Blue Cross, Blue Shields, whatever. Now they're the ones that are saying, hey, there's a market out here, we want it. So they say we should have to allow the counties, their position is the county should have to open it up for competitive bids for them to come in. Well, it's not like Prime West isn't an insurance company. It is a group of right now 14 counties that are formed together. So it's 14 counties saying that we want to be able to provide this for our people. So just wanted to just reinforce that whole viewpoint.
Yeah.
And anything that you can do outside of the litigation, and once we do get through that, we certainly appreciate your support on that as well too, Senator.
Sure. Yeah. You know, you mentioned state agencies going off and doing their own thing, and you mentioned the REAs. I'm carrying a bill, for example, that since the REAs were established 80-some years ago, it was always the Department of Revenue's ruling that from that distribution lines for the REAs and their attachments would not pay personal property tax. And utility companies pay a great amount of personal property tax yet, as you're well aware. Well, now all of a sudden, they decided that meters and
Yard lights.
are now taxable personal property. In fact, there were a couple of REAs up north farther that had tax bills of over $200,000 as a result of that change. There was never any legislation that changed it. They just reinterpreted the rule. And I criticized them for that, and they got a little defensive. Well, we don't like being accused of reinterpreting. I said, then what did you do? I said, it stood in place for 83 years. I would say that it has stood the test of time. And I said, and now you're saying that, no, they got it wrong 83 years ago. The only thing my legislation does is say, no, they got it right 83 years ago, and you're the ones that are wrong.
Right.
But, I mean, this is what you fight.
You comment about the increased property values and so forth. We're fortunate for this year because our levy had actually gone down. It didn't impact our residents too bad, not as bad as it could. But still, we have to keep in mind that tax capacity. Even though property values are going up, we still have that same limit on what we can actually tax our people at. So in recent years, I know there's been improvement in county program aid. We certainly appreciate that. And as we go forward, we'll need more support with that, again, to help offset some of this inflation that we're seeing from these property values.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah.
Anything else for?
I got one more item I'd like to strike onto. Both Chris and I serve on the Casey Jones Trail Board, as you're familiar, and we're continue working on that. And there has been a Senate file been introduced, the 2177. Is that going to be able to come to a vote? Do you know where are we at with that?
Well, the 2177, that the bonding bill?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that has to work its way through the bonding committee yet at this point. It will never be voted on individually.
No.
It'll wind up being part of a bonding bill.
One of the biggest stumbling blocks that we learned about here a year or so ago is that even though Casey Jones Trail was the first designated state trail, as we all know that history, and through all these years we've been, you're on the bonding bill, you're on the ball, you calm down to the 12th hour and you got cut at the last. We've heard that story many, many times. And then we found out recently that we're not even considered as it was the term primary trail, that we're a secondary, and we don't know how we all of a sudden got designated as a secondary trail. And because of that secondary status, it just makes us really low on the totem pole when it comes to funding. So we still have tried to be getting us a little clarification of how did that happen and how can we get redesignated back to a primary trail.
Right. No, that's right. And then I've had the discussion with the bonding chair on all the bonding bills that I have put forth. And, and we, a few years ago, when the DNR commissioner made a statement about the only recreational activity out in the prairie was hunting pheasants anyway.
Yes.
We took him to task in the newspaper for that one, and he then generated his bike tour.
Came down for a ride.
Yeah, but it's really really easy for them to forget about us down here.
Well, again, anything you can do to help promote this Senate file. 2177, the bonding bill, appreciate that as well. But we realize that you don't have a magic wand, but we appreciate you being there fighting for us.
You bet. Yeah.
One thing I may, we'd really request assistance if you could on the Armor Radio grants, if you'd support that. That's really important to us. We're in the process now, and the sheriff is back there too. Our radios are getting quite old too, as you've heard probably from Kyle and Rock as well, what's going on with that. But the 5% match is not a burden to us to do that, but it's just if we were to go out and buy these radios, it'd be, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to replace them. But, there's a couple of bills on there. I don't know, hopefully it'll go forward, but it sure would be helpful.
Okay.
We need those dollars big time. If it comes to fruition, that'd be
And
great.
that'll be going through the Public Safety Committee,
Yes.
and so, well, we have, I don't know the chair's position on that one specifically. One of the things that are in the Senate and in my caucus that we've been promoting, quite frankly, is public safety and support for law enforcement and what have you, dealing with everything from equipment and training all the way through pensions and what have you. So those are things we will continue to work on.
Thank you.
So,
Anything else, Chris? Luke?
So thank you.
you bet. Glad to be here.
Yes.
Jeff? Myron? Anybody out there?
For the mayor.
Okay, thank you, Senator Weber. I only talked to you about a week ago, but
Yep.
I really want to thank you for your support on the Southwest Mayor's Council, Minnesota Mayor's Council on our workforce.
Yep.
Even though it kind of suffered a little bit of a setback in the House side, I understand that Senator Bach is kind of putting together the hearing schedule. And so anything we can do, at least on the Senate side, at least to get a hearing on it would be greatly appreciated.
Well, and I think our best chance of funding, quite frankly, is from Jobs Committee through workforce development monies, and rather than any type of bonding money, at this point. And then as far as the tax credit for employers, that like I said, that's
Tax bill.
yeah. So.
And then the second one, very briefly, I know you kind of alluded to it here at the county level, but also on local government aid. They're kind of redoing the whole formula. And from what I can understand of that formula change, it basically removes the cap or adjusts the cap or upward. So over time, that if funding is available, then communities can receive more money. So we'd really greatly appreciate support on that also.
Well, and I to be honest with you, the one concern that I have about the funding formula changes is that it seems to me that it was more designed to keep everybody on that's currently on, and I don't think that's the original purpose of local government aid. Local government aid was meant to provide assistance to those communities who are property poor, who meet a certain set of criteria, yes, but I'm not so sure that all the changes they made were necessarily made with that in mind. And so I think there needs to be more discussion about that particular issue. As you know, I'm a strong supporter of LGA and in city government for 16 years, and so I really believe in that. But at the same time, I don't know they're going back and trying to tweak a few things as well. So.
Yep, and that's kind of what I've been following. It isn't cast in stone.
No.
And finally, if you can get your magic wand out and solve the workforce housing shortage, would be really greatly appreciated.
Yeah, it's the scary thing in the housing situation is that with what St. Paul has done, and basically took out $1 billion of private investment in housing in their community, the bonding chair is really reluctant to stick a lot of money into housing because it's hard not to let St. Paul have their share, and yet nobody's going to use it. And so I don't know where he's going to wind up, to be honest with you, in the housing element this year. They have created a lot of problems